Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Okay, we'll get started. So I know some of you, it may be a little bit of a repeat. So I'll just quickly go through this. So in the previous sessions, basically we looked at the different ladders of yoga, right? So we looked at Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And so basically in those different yogas, paths are actually a lot more, it's not suitable for Kali Yuga, and it is difficult to do that. And the easiest process, what we arrived was the devotional service or Bhakti Yoga. Is basically the analogy that was given is if you want to go to the top of the building or top of the mountain, if there is an elevator or escalator, just take that, right? So that way we don't have to go through the pain. Rather, it's easy to go to the top of the building. The same way, Bhakti Yoga is an analogy to the taking the elevator or escalator process, whereas the other processes are like taking the stairs. So it is a lot easier to do that. And also in Kali Yuga, obviously everybody wants to do in short time, fast food and cricket matches. A 5-day match now became 2020, which is 4-hour match, and so on. So the same way, the Lord knew that people are not going to have a lot of patience in Kali Yuga, so the Lord gave the opportunity, spoke Bhagavad Gita in 90 minutes. So that people can just take this, because he condensed all the knowledge of Vedas into Bhagavad Gita. When somebody goes and reads the entire Vedas, which Vyasadeva cataloged, one would come to a certain conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and that we have to surrender to him. That's the conclusion one would arrive. That same conclusion one would arrive by just reading 700 verses in Bhagavad Gita, right? So, and also get the same understanding of reading the whole Bhagavad Gita, the entire Vedas. You go through a lot of realization, understanding of the philosophy, understanding about the Lord, everything. All of that gets condensed into Bhagavad Gita. And the Lord, eventually he emphasizes that of all these paths, the easiest one you can take and most promising path is Bhakti Yoga. That's the conclusion the Lord comes up with. So I'm going to skip through some of these slides, but and also the Bhagavad Gita was spoken to a householder. Even though the Lord interacted with all kinds of people, right? So he had interacted with Sandeep Muni, who was a saintly person, who is his guru, and or other gurus as well. There are many sannyasis he came across. He didn't speak about this knowledge to them. And even he had a very detailed conversation with Vidura before the war. And Vidura is a very advanced devotee and who was, basically Yamaraj, who took incarnation as Vidura. And because he got cursed by a saint. So even to him, he didn't speak, even though he was a very advanced devotee. And he didn't speak to Bhishma, or he didn't who was a brahmachari. He didn't speak to any of those type of people. But he chose to speak to Arjuna on two multiple fronts. One, Arjuna is not envious of the Lord. He is a friend. Number two, he is a householder. So because he knew the majority of the population in this world are going to be householders. So he wanted to speak to the householders so that they can relate to it, right? And also the Lord chose the moment which is a one of the most critical moment in anybody's life, right? So basically, so many millions of people are assembled to fight, and the decision that Arjuna is going to make is going to make or break, or it's a life or death for so many souls assembled there to fight. So one cannot be in more pressing moment than that in any of our lives, right? Yes, we may be in some critical moments here and there in life, but it can not be compared to what Arjuna was going through at that time. And they took a break from that critical moment to speak about this. So the Lord emphasizes, yes, we can all say that I'm busy, I don't have time. Still, they took time in a critical moment to discuss this topic, right? So that is another important point we have to understand. And Arjuna had all the social responsibilities and so on. So he chose a person whom everybody can relate to. And then who have an occupation, and then he has to do his duty as a king. All of that responsibilities are there. If we had spoken to sannyasi, then people will say, oh, he spoke to sannyasi, he doesn't have much of a duties and all that. So those type of comments also cannot come, because Arjuna has a lot of responsibilities. And then also, he wanted him to pursue the ultimate goal of life, which is reviving the relationship with the love of the Lord, right? So that's basically what he wanted to emphasize. And the other point was also, a lot of times, especially in India, we could hear, oh, spiritual life means that I'll deal with it when I retire. It's not for when I'm active. I want to enjoy life, and it's not for me. When I retire, I will look into spirituality. The problem is in that approach is, one, if when we retire, we don't know whether we can see. Our body will cooperate, our mind will cooperate. There's so many sickness can come at that time that you just can't do anything at that. You may become, paralyzed or whatever, right? So then it will be too late to understand and follow this spirituality. And what the Lord emphasizes is, this is something you make it as part of your life. Every day, the Bhagavad Gita is about art of living, how one should live the life. That is what Bhagavad Gita is about. Srimad Bhagavatam is about art of dying. When somebody is about to leave the body, how they should be preparing themselves to leave the body, right? So those are the two literature which we have to be, fully understanding the benefits of those. So therefore, it is not saying, okay, only when I'm retired and I have nothing to do. Even if at that time we will have something to do. My Guru Maharaj used to give an example. One of the devotees, he used to, he knew him very well. So when he was, I think he was in his 50s at that time, he said, Prabhu, why don't you give up all this and just come with me, practice bhakti? I said, Maharaj, I have some responsibilities. I have to get my kids married. So let me get my kids married, then I should be able to, retire, and then I can do full-time devotional service. I said, okay. And then a few years passed by, and then his kids all got married. Then Maharaj again saw him and said, hey, now that your kids are married, well, what do you want to do? Why don't you come? Then he said, Maharaj, I just want to spend some time with my kids, see them married now. They're going to have kids. So I just want to see that process. I said, okay. And then the kids had kids. So he had grandkids. So now the grandkids are there. Okay, now that grandkids are also there, now it's time for you to retire. Why don't you come? He said, Maharaj, I want to see these little kids grow a little bit bigger. Then I should be, start. And then a few years pass by. Okay, the kids have grown up. What do you want to do? Oh, I want to see them go through the school. And I said, okay, you're never going to come. So like that, we will always have something, because of these attachments, we have to be careful. This example emphasizes that we have to be careful. Once we got to certain stage in life, we have to figure out how to detach ourselves from all these attachments, because it is going to be so luring that it's going to keep pulling us back with different attachments. Especially the family attachment is the hardest one. So we have to be careful of not getting too tied with our. That doesn't mean we don't help our kids, or they have kids. They may need some help here and there. We go help, but not ourselves too attached to those process. Rather, we should be looking at how do I revive my relationship with the Lord, so that I can be ready for my journey back to home, back to Godhead, right? So that is the biggest thing as a human being we can do. Plus, the other important aspect is, if we really want to help our kids, if we go back to the spiritual world, we're actually helping next 21 generations. They are also guaranteed to go back to the spiritual world. Actually, seven or 21, I don't know the exact number. 7 generations before and 7 generations after, I think. It's a total of 14 generations. So this was explained by Lord Narasimhadev when Prahlad Maharaj, after killing Hiranyakashipu, Narasimhadev asked Prahlad, "What do you want, Prahlad? Ask me something." And then Prahlad said, "My Lord, getting your darshan itself satisfied me in every aspect. I don't want anything from you other than your, always your mercy. I just want to be your devotee. Just that's the only thing I want. No, that is there always for you. But just ask me something." The Lord insisted him to ask something. So then he said, if you really want to do something, then just please liberate my father. He made a mistake. Just forgive him and just liberate him. At that time, the Lord said, "Oh, don't even worry about it. I've liberated, for any devotee, a pure devotee, when it gets liberated, I will liberate 7 generations before them and 7 generations after them." So that is the real benediction we're going to help do out to our kids by getting them also liberated, right? So that's a very big gift we can give them. Then, few millions we can, or even in a billion you can give them. It's not worth it. But if you can get them liberated, that's the biggest benediction you can offer to your kids, our kids, right? So that is what spiritual life is about, right? And Lord emphatically emphasizes that you have to do your duty. You're not just going to walk away from your duty as a parent or as a son or as a daughter or mother, father, whatever it is, right? So you have to do your duty. At the same time, follow this process of bhakti. That way you perfect the life in this lifetime itself, right? And Prabhupada also says that, don't waste this opportunity. When people asked Prabhupada, okay, I will follow a little bit this time, maybe I will advance to better devotee next life and I can make progress. Why wait till next life? Just get it done in this lifetime itself. Don't lose this opportunity. Just finish your business here. This is not a place for a gentleman or gentlewoman. Just finish your business and go back. And don't waste this opportunity. That's what Prabhupada would emphatically keep repeating. Every time this topic comes up, just get it done. Don't miss this opportunity. So that's what he would say. And also, as I said, the reason it was spoken on the battlefield is to emphasize that in multiple fronts, right? The Lord is like a movie director, right? So a movie director builds all the suspense before the climax, and then in the climax, he makes a movie does something. The same way the Lord builds up this whole Mahabharat up to the battlefield, and then he delivers this magnificent message, right? So he's the best director you can imagine, right? So he comes and delivers this important message. That's number one. Number two, we cannot claim that, hey, I'm busy, I don't have time. Even in middle of the battlefield, they take time out and just discuss about this topic. And he emphasizes the importance of Bhagavad Gita as well, right? So there are so many important decisions we make, and he gives guidance how to make decision. Bhagavad Gita is a framework one gets how to make decisions in life, because every day we make some small decisions, big, medium decisions, and really big decisions. So when we make decisions, if we are well versed with Bhagavad Gita, then we will make the right decision. Otherwise, we may end up making mistakes when we make those decisions. So that's the reason why the Lord chose that moment to speak Bhagavad Gita, so that we understand that, okay, in such a critical, difficult moment, Arjuna gets this knowledge so that he can make the right decision. Because right before the war, he gets confused, and we're going to see the points he are going to make here in the first chapter. Most of the first chapter is all about Arjuna making arguments with the knowledge he had, right? So he had a limited knowledge. Obviously, he had, incidentally, when the Lord spoke Bhagavad Gita at the time of creation to Vivaswan, at that time also Arjuna was present. It is just that he forgot that this whole thing happened. So Lord had to again say that, okay, yeah, I spoke at the time of creation. I'm speaking again. It is just that you don't remember all of that. I remember everything. So that's the point he was making. And so lost my train of thought. Anyway, it'll come. So he was explaining that to Arjuna so that he can understand. Now that he got confused with what to do, because he was put in an illusion, so that the Lord can speak Bhagavad Gita, right? Even though he sort of knew most of this philosophy, the Lord just put him on bewilderment, so that he can ask these questions for us. Anyway, so once he spoke that, then he started making the right decisions, right? So now he got clarity. Okay, I'm doing it for you. I'm not doing anything for me. This is something I'm going to do it as an offering for you. All that clarity, he got it. So that's the same clarity we all should have once we finish reading Bhagavad Gita. Then same conclusion we should have, so that on day-to-day basis we can apply in our life as well. Right? So that's the only objective of this class as well. There's no other objective. We all get to right decision making. We get the knowledge so that we get to make the right decisions, right? So, and then anyway, so I'm, this is fine. And then what we basically discussed was, how do we apply, what are the things that we need to do in how do I spiritualize my life, right? So that's the next topic basically we covered. So the things that we want to do is, there are 4 do's. If you remember A, B, C, D, and then you can remember all this. So actually this order is wrong. So A is for association. associating with the devotees. Because devotees means they're going to always, who have understood Bhagavad Gita, and their mind is clear what they have to do and what not, what they shouldn't do. So therefore, if we associate with such people, even if we are, wavering a little bit, they will help us get back on track. So therefore, always associating with devotees is very important. If we associate with materialistic people who are, some people who are always talking about stock market or real estate or this and that, then obviously we will, oh, maybe I should invest in stocks, or maybe I should be focused on investing in real estate. And so our mind is not going to lose the focus on the ultimate goal. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be investing on some things, but we should be not always thinking about that. That's not our focus, right? And then the second one is reading the books. So when we read the books, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, all the Prabhupada books, then we get the knowledge, what we need, basically, right? Because they always say, you take Bhagavad Gita and you take any page and you read, you will get one message which is relevant to that moment for you, right? So it's like that. So that is where it's so powerful. And Prabhupada, his mission was to provide an unadulterated message, right? So that was his only goal in what he wanted to accomplish, was make sure he translated Bhagavad Gita as it is. That's why he called it even Bhagavad Gita as it is. So that whatever Krishna wanted to communicate, that was communicated as it is in Bhagavad Gita. That was because earlier there were many versions of Bhagavad Gita was there. People translated whimsically with their own minds, ideas and whatnot. So he wanted to make sure, because none of those Bhagavad Gita actually delivered that message. So that's why he translated. And Bhagavatam, nobody translated in English, so he did that as well. So that we have all those, we get that knowledge through that books. And then chanting the holy name. So mantra, man means mind. Mantra means the medicine for the mind. So our mind is actually like a garbage can. It collects a lot of garbage every day. Every moment it just keep collecting garbage. So the more we collect the garbage, what happens is it's covered, so it gets covered, the soul gets covered so much that it cannot realize the Lord. So therefore, we have to remove that covering as much as possible. That covering can be removed. There is no, allopathy medicine or homeopathy medicine. No medicine there that can just go and cure the mind. So the only medicine that's available is Harinam. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we chant that, we actually take a layer of dust in our heart, in the mind, right? So the more we chant, it just clears that in our mind. So therefore, we start one. That's why Prabhupada always says, chant and be happy. So because the more we chant, the more happy we will get, right? Because we are clearing all the dirt that's collected in our mind. Therefore, we can become more and more realized, and we start reviving our relationship with the Lord, right? And then the last one is diet. The food is very important. It plays a very important role in our spiritual life, because whatever we eat, it directly impacts our mind. Okay, a gross example I can give is if somebody takes alcohol. Before taking alcohol, they will speak nicely or normally. But then once they take alcohol, the speech will change. They may speak too nicely, or they may too badly. But it is because their mind is impacted immediately, right? So alcohol is a gross example that whatever is taken in, it immediately impacts the mind. The same way, the eating meat affects our mind as well. What it does is it brings mode of ignorance into the mind. It builds mode of ignorance in the mind. Therefore, we have to situate ourselves in mode of goodness. So in the sattva guna. So but eating meat will take us to tamoguna. So that is why we have to, obviously, plus karmic footprint and all that. That set aside, just it impacts our mind in a very negative way, that the desire for spiritual life will go down. The more the meat we eat, our desire for spirituality will be less. So that is why it has to be eliminated. Plus, we eat sattvic food, which is a vegetarian food. And then the one thing that we have to eliminate in our lives is onion and garlic. So why onion and garlic? Because onion and garlic induces desire in the heart. So people may say, okay, garlic has some properties. Acts like a blood thinner and all that. It's good for reducing blood pressure and all that. It may have some properties, but it also has this subtle quality of inducing desires in the heart. We don't want excessive desire in the heart, because then that means mind won't be calm. The more desires we induce, then the mind is too oscillating all the time. So we cannot calm it down. So to calm it down, we have to fully take only sattva guna food, pure vegetarian food with no onion, garlic, no egg or any of that stuff, right? So when we do that, then on top of it, so that will get us to sattva guna. But if we offer the food before eating, when we cook, we shouldn't taste the food. We cook it for Krishna, and we actually show the process as well. That may be here. Okay, I missed that slide. We offer the food to Krishna in a separate plate with a tulsi leaf in that. Then the Lord will accept it. Then after offering, then we take the food and we mix it in our pots, and then we eat it. Then we don't accrue any karma. So from the food we ate, because we go to work. Let's say we go to Microsoft or Amazon or wherever we go to work. Good example, Microsoft. And then let's say you're working on in this office team, which makes spreadsheets. And that same spreadsheet is used by a terrorist to plan an attack on somebody, and somebody gets killed. That karma will come to you. You say, Hare, I didn't do anything. I just did the work here. How is that? That is how complex this karma works. We may not directly contribute to something, but indirectly we may contribute. Now, how do I prevent that karma coming into my account? Basically, because the salary we're getting out of that job, what do? We go to a store, grocery store, we buy grocery, bring it home, we cook it, and we eat it. That's when it comes into our account. Until then, it doesn't come. So to stop that, if we offer the food to Krishna, then Krishna says, okay, it's not your account anymore. He takes care of it. So that is the beauty of offering the food to Krishna. So when we offer it and we take it as a prasadam, then we stop adding karma to our balance. And then there are other processes where we can start cleaning up all the past karma as well. So therefore, by end of the life, we can clear out all our balance. So that is why it is very important. Diet is as important as all these four things. If we do it, then our life will become perfect. Right, and there are 4 don'ts. Actually, I had a slide where that slide was. Is it this one? I don't know where my slide is. Sorry about that. There are 4 things one should not do. I'll find the slide. This one is no intoxication. One should not, consume alcohol or other forms of intoxication. One should avoid that. Number 1, no meat eating. That's the second one, because these are all detrimental to the spiritual progress, right? And then third is no gambling. Why no gambling? Is because your mind is always anxious about this. Oh, am I going to lose or win or whatever? So we don't want our mind to be anxious all the time, because already our mind is anxious on so many things. This is another burden we're adding onto it. So we shouldn't do that. The last one is illicit sex, which means having sex outside of marriage. These 4 things one should not do. That itself is the basic requirement for one to start the spiritual journey. Then we get into this ABCD, saying, okay, associate with the devotees, read books, and chant the holy name, and eat diet with Krishna Prasad. Now you're surcharging your life with the spiritual progress, right? So that's all we need to do. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple, straightforward. As long as we do that, our life, everyone will realize themselves. Because one time somebody asked Prabhupada, how do I know that I'm making spiritual progress? So Prabhupada always gives amazing analogy, very simple. Anybody can understand analogy. Let us say if I put a food on a plate, and I give it to you, and I keep feeding to you. I can feed as much as you want, but you will know when you are full. I won't know when you are full, but you will know when you are full. The same way, spirituality is like that. You will know how full you are. That progress is internal. So nobody can look at another person and say, oh, he is advanced devotee, or he is a neophyte devotee, or anybody. Anybody can be in a very advanced state. Externally, they may look like a very ordinary person, but internally they could be very advanced, right? So that's why we should not judge somebody and say, he doesn't seem to be a devotee or whatever. Their activities may look a little odd, but they could be a very advanced devotee. So therefore, it is a very internal process and a very personal, because reviving relationship with the Lord is one-on-one, right? So our kids or our husband or wife, or they can be part of the journey, but that relationship is one-on-one. And the Lord also cherishes that. He wants to have that one-on-one with every single living entity. And he cherishes that. Because we turned away from him, he is sad, saying, this child is suffering so badly. I hope he or she will turn towards me. He was desperately looking for each one of us. We are resisting. I got other things to do. Every day we got other things to do other than, the most important things. So therefore, we should always take this path seriously, read Bhagavad Gita, and follow this process. So that's basically the summary of this. And I will share actually. Okay, now that I remember, I will share the details on how to offer food for the deities. I will share that. And then the second thing is, if possible, get a tulsi plant. This season it's very hard to get a plant. But once the spring starts, our devotees will actually Hare Krishna. Our devotees will actually produce the saplings of tulsi plant, so you can get it and have it at home. And every day we do tulsi arti and circumambulate tulsi 3 times and offer a little water to her. That will clear the karma balance in our balance. Like, and they give an example that you cannot commit more sins. That much karma, the balance can be cleared by Tulsi Maharani because she's so merciful. Even if somebody has killed a Brahmin, that's one of the highest sins. Killing a cow and killing a Brahmin are the highest sin. Even if somebody committed that sin in our past lives, right? That also can be cleared by worshipping Tulsi Maharani. So she is so merciful. She can help clear that. These are all things, very practical solutions that are offered for us in this process, which are easy to follow. And if we follow, the benefit is to us, right? And we get benefited, then we help our relatives, friends, family, everybody say, hey, you all also should follow this and get the benefit, right? So that's this process. Any questions? I'll take a pause here. Okay, we will continue. Okay, covered all this. So let's go to this week class. Okay. So I was supposed to start this today, but I'm glad I spent some time to rehash the topic. So Prabhupada actually, as I explained, he gave, according to him, it is actually a basic practical preaching book. Bhagavad Gita is a basic practical preaching book. He wrote it in a way that anybody can understand. You don't need prior knowledge. You don't need to be a advanced devotee, or you don't need to be a Hindu. You can be a Christian, you can be a Jew, you can be a Islam, you follow anything. It doesn't matter. He wrote it for human beings. And he always emphatically emphasized that this is not a religious or a sectarian book only for Hindus, right? This is for mankind. So therefore, anybody can take this book and read it. And there are so many stories. And he will also say, this book is like a ticking time bomb. Sometimes, the devotees who are distributing the books, they will try to force somebody to take the book. And then some may grudgingly take the book and say, this is such a torture from this person. And then they may grudgingly take it. But then they take it home and they may not even read it. Somebody in that family, some situation comes and this is, what is this book? And they take it, read it, and then they become a devotee. One time, this person, he grudgingly took this book and he took it home and he just left it in his bookshelf. And then different life events he went through, he was depressed and he decided to give up his life. He was going to commit suicide. And then at that time, somehow he thought, this book has been sitting here for a while. Why not what is this book about? Because this person said, if you read this book, you can become happy. When the person sold the book, that person told, you're going to become happy if you read this book. So he said, okay, let me just, anyway, I'm going to die. Let me just see what it is. So he took that book, he read it, and he gave up the idea of committing suicide, and then he became a devotee. So things like that, it can transform anybody in any situation. There's so many examples like this that people become devotees after reading this. There's so much transformation happens. So that's why we should read this, and also we should read it. If you read this, we should read the whole book and understand this philosophy as a whole. Lot of times, what happens is, especially in India, so many philosophers are there. Meaning, anybody you go through, they'll talk of philosophy. They'll cherry pick something somewhere it is told in Bhagavad Gita, or they may even say something that is not told in Bhagavad Gita as, oh, Bhagavad Gita says that and this, right? And it will be taken out of context and spoken out of context, and it will confuse everybody. So for us to get the real benefit, if we read the whole 700 verses with the purport and understand the meaning, then we get the full context. On what basis the Lord spoke? What are the questions Arjuna asked? Why did he even ask? Because a lot of times, while you're reading Bhagavad Gita, you will get a question, and the next few verses you read, that question will be asked. Arjuna has asked the question I just had. So it will be like that. So the flow of events will be like that. The questions that you're having in your mind will come in subsequent discussions, because it's a Q&A session, right? So therefore, if we read the whole Bhagavad Gita, then now I understand the whole context. And now I understand what I should do, and I understand what I should not do. Therefore, we make sure we follow the right path, right? So that's the point he was taking. Even Sankaracharya describes Gita as, a river of nectar, right? So that's what he spoke about this. And then this also sets the scene where, the whole history of Mahabharata, we all know, and then also the Arjuna denies why he doesn't want to fight, right? And also, when Vyasadeva composed, he wanted to compose the Vedas, he approached Lord Ganeshji to say, okay, can you help write Mahabharata? Then Ganeshji actually put a condition. I can write it, but the moment if I don't have content to write, I will stop writing wherever I am. After that, I won't write. So you have to keep giving me non-stop. You can't take a break, bathroom break, or or the sleeping break, none of that. You have to give me content for me to write all the time. Vyasadeva said, okay, I agree to that, but with one condition. He said, what condition? Whatever I say, you have to understand first and then write. Without understanding, you should not write. Ganeshji said, okay, fine. That's a fair challenge. I'll accept that. So whenever Vyasadeva needed a break, he will say something so complex that he has to spend time to think about it. So he cannot just write. So he will spend a few hours to think about it and then write it. So that is how they were just playing. Whenever Vyasadeva needed a break, he would just say something complex. And then Ganeshji will spend time thinking about it, and then he will write it. By the time he will come back, and then he will give the next thing. So that's a transcendental activity they were performing, because Vyasadeva himself is a Satyavesha avatar. He's an empowered soul, right? Avatar of the Lord himself. So therefore, he can do such things and all that. And then the Lord obviously chose the right moment to speak this knowledge to his devotee and the friend Arjuna. Right. So I'll skip these slides because we all know Mahabharata and also the relationship with Arjuna and Krishna. And also he chose to speak at right before the war. So there's so many different translations. There are so many translations appear, a commentary and translations in Bhagavad Gita. They were all mistaken. They were all written with even sometimes, talking about Krishna as a historical figure rather than acknowledging him as the Lord himself, right? So there were so many different translations that were existing, which confuses the people who are readers. It doesn't translate to the same message what the Lord intended to speak. And then, but the main goal for Srila Prabhupada was to speak, was to translate it with the same intent what the Lord had when he spoke to Arjuna, right? So that is why he even called it as Bhagavad Gita as it is, rather than something else. And the history, we all should know how even he did this, how much struggle he actually went through. So before coming to US, when he was in India, he actually had the whole Bhagavad Gita translated. He had written it in the manuscript he has written, and then it was stolen by somebody. He lost it, and then second time he did it after coming to US. When he did that, he used to actually use a dictaphone to record it, and then either him or his disciples would use the typewriter to type it, and that whole manuscript got stolen again. Once in his apartment, somebody stole everything, all of that. So he still didn't give up. So then he did the third time. He wrote this because so after he did this, now the challenge is to get it printed, right? So he approached many. He was not a very popular sannyasi at the time, and all his disciples were actually ex drug addicts and hippies. They're all young kids, in late 20s, right? They were not from big family or anything. So they didn't have any connections as well. Most of them left their homes and they're all roaming around themselves. So therefore, Prabhupada was struggling to get it printed. There's a person called Allen Ginsberg. He was a very popular poet, and he liked Prabhupada's message. And he had his book printed as well, Ginsberg's book. So Prabhupada asked, why don't you use your connection to get it printed? So he tried to go to his publishers and try to say, can you print this? And nobody was even buying that argument. So the reason being, they don't know how many copies this book will sell. So therefore, they were not excited about it. It's not like, Sidney Sheldon's story about this and that, or John Grisham's, suspense story, whatever, where, millions of copies would sell. This one, they don't know how many will sell. So therefore, nobody was showing interest. So then there was one disciple called Brahmananda Prabhu. Prabhupada said, Brahmananda, you get it printed. You figure out, go do it. So when Acharya empowers somebody like that, somehow things will manifest. So therefore, but now Brahmananda Prabhu, he was a young person as well. He was in his 20s and he was like, okay, how do I do it? Prabhupada has told me, maybe I'll go take a printing class in college, learn how to do printing and set up some sort of a printing house and do it. That's how I can do it. He was thinking like that. And at that time, they actually were also doing other things. Obviously, Prabhupada is so dynamic personality. They were doing other things. They actually put an ad in local newspaper for selling this music. Prabhupada would sing himself and record some music. And then they were selling and also play some music on his harmonium, whatever. And then they record that and they were selling as meditational music or something like that. So, so then they would get some orders here and there, and then they would send it using USPS at that time. They would ship it. And one such order came from an address from Macmillan Publishing House. So they got excited, saying, Prabhupada, we got an order from the publisher. Maybe they are interested. So we should go and pitch to them. So then Prabhupada said, okay, then don't ship it. Take a copy of music, go deliver it in person, and tell them you are actually a follower of a guru from India, and he wants to print Bhagavad Gita, and they will do it. And this person was like, how are you so sure they will do it? Okay, I'll go do it. So he dressed nicely and he took a copy of this and he went there to the Macmillan house and then he asked, okay, who's this person? This person was some like low-level clerk employee who wanted to have this music. So this person had ordered it. So he was so disappointed. So like, man, now what are we going to do? So he was just chatting with that person saying that, I was hoping we can get this thing printed, but is this something, I don't know how to get it done. My guru is really hoping on somebody can help. At that time, a person came. So this person introduced to that person. That person happened to be what's the title? Some editor or some senior person. And then he said, listen, we would like to get this Bhagavad Gita to be printed. Would you be interested? Then he said, how timely this thing you come up with, because we have published, we are actually doing a whole set of all religions. We're doing Bible, we're doing Quran, and Judaism. We're looking for Eastern religion. Somebody could do it. Do you have the manuscript? I was like, what? Are you kidding? Of course. And then bring it. We should be able to print it. So immediately he ran to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, we got it. Now Macmillan would print it. See, I told you, they'll do it. So then Prabhupada knew already this is going to happen. So then they took it. And then one challenge they came up was, listen, your manuscript is too long. We cannot print that big a book. So condense it, make it shorter. So now Prabhupada had to rewrite a lot of things, make sure the message is not, confusing. So they rewrote a lot of things. He personally sat, each verse went through again. And what is called a bridged version or something. So they did that and gave the manuscript back and they got it printed. And then the magic happened. So these devotees now started selling these books like crazy. They went and to every airport, every train station, bus station, everywhere. They started, distributing the books like crazy. That they didn't expect. Macmillan didn't expect this volume would come in. And so they were very excited about it. And then Prabhupada said, I wanted to have a full version published, not this bridged version. So he got the full version again published. And then at later point, Prabhupada decided to have our own press, ISKCON press. So what they called as Bhaktivedanta Book Trust press. So he set up a press and they started printing the books from Bhaktivedanta Trust itself. So that's how this Bhagavad Gita came into existence. That Prabhupada went through so many challenges to get this printed. It was not an easy journey for him. But the inspiration he got was primarily, he dedicates even this Bhagavad Gita to Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan. So Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan was a very advanced devotee, Gaudiya Sampradaya. So in 1700s, Maharaja Savai Jai Singh too, right? So he was the king of Jaipur. This is the time when Mughals were ruling and they were destroying all the temples in Vrindavan. Vrindavan had 5,000 temples. Most of them were destroyed. There's only very few left. So when the temples were getting destroyed, Sri Radha Govindaji was taken from the temple in Vrindavan. They were moved to Jaipur for safety. Otherwise, they would get destroyed. So they moved the deities. So Radha Govindaji was actually from Vrindavan, who is now in Jaipur. So, so this king was actually the protector and built a temple for the Lord, and the worship was going nicely. And he himself was also following Gaudiya Sampradaya philosophy and all that. Now the Brahmins from Sri Sampradaya or Madhavacharya Sampradaya, one of those, they criticized the Maharaj, Jai Singh, saying that you are actually not following proper religion, because worshipping Radharani is not bona fide. There is no scripture that talks about Radharani. You are making stuff up and things like that. They criticized him pretty much. And he didn't have answers to it. So he sent somebody to Vrindavan to ask for help, to talk to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it comes from the discipline. His guru was Narottam Das Thakur. His guru was Vrindavan Das Thakur, I think. So Vrindavan Das Thakur was disciple of Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami is a disciple of Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami is disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So basically from now, Prabhupada, all the way to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's a unbroken disciplical succession. Last 500 years, even before that, there was there. But this 500 years, there were every disciple had another disciple up to Srila Prabhupada, and then his disciples are here, right? Harilas Maharaj, my guru, Bhakti Swami Maharaj, they were all disciples of Prabhupada. So this unbroken chain. So when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was approached to come and help, he was very old and he was also sick. So he couldn't travel. So he asked his disciple Baladev Vidyabhushan to say, you go and defend the Gaudiya philosophy. So he went to Jaipur, and he tried to defend the Gaudiya Sampradaya. So at that time, for a Sampradaya to be bona fide, to be considered bona fide, they have to, what they call as, they have to have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. There are 64 euphemisms are there in Vedanta. A Acharya has to have written commentary for that Vedanta Sutra. Then that Sampradaya can be considered as bona fide. So Gaudiya Sampradaya didn't have that. Nobody did that in this process. So they said, you don't have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So how can you consider yourself as a bona fide Sampradaya? You don't. So for Sri Sampradaya, Srila Ramanujacharya has written that. and for like that, others have written. So then Srila Vidyabhushan, Baladev Vidyabhushan said, I will get it written for Gaudiya Sampradaya. He told that, and then he left the palace. He went to Radha Govindaji temple and he prayed to the Lord. Lord, I don't know on what basis I made this. I told them that I will do it. I have no capability and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And he started crying. Please, because only through your mercy I can do it. Otherwise, I'm going to let my guru and the whole parampara down. Please help me. So that day, the Lord came in his dream and he said, don't worry about it. You write, I will inspire. So the Lord gave him the knowledge. Within few days, he wrote the entire commentary. Usually it's a lifetime work for an acharya to write. It takes many, many years to write the commentary for Vedanta Sutra. He wrote in few days. And then he took that went to the king of Jaipur and he said, okay, I've got the commentary. They couldn't believe it. They said, no, it's not possible. He said, okay, let's hear it. And then they wanted to hear it. And then he laid out the commentary for the Vedanta Sutra. Immediately, they all fell at his feet. They said, this is not possible by an ordinary person. You must be an empowered acharya. That's how you're able to do it. And then he acknowledged Lord Govindaji actually came and spoke to him and gave the knowledge to write this. Otherwise, he couldn't have done it. And that's how this commentary, it's called Govinda Bhashya. It was run, the commentary he wrote. And Prabhupada took a lot of inspiration from that. And whatever commentary he wrote, he refers to that. He refers to Ramanujacharya's commentary on Bhagavad Gita and others as well. And he has condensed all that information, what he has given to us. Right? So that's why it's a very bona fide process, what he has laid out. So now if we go and try to understand all these things this Acharyas has done for us, then we will actually appreciate how much knowledge, the wealth of knowledge Prabhupada has given to us in a consumable format. Right? And also how much struggle all these acharyas had to go through to put this information in place. Right? So because it was all in different formats in different ways. And when Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami were writing, they were writing based on the instructions Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just spoke all this knowledge to get it written down for the, what Vyasadeva has written down, they were all getting lost. So the Mahaprabhu came and re-established a lot of that knowledge. And that is how we have this knowledge, whatever we have. And still they are actually, there's a Bhakti Vedanta Research Institute, BVRI, whatever. So they are actually collecting all the palm leaf written documents. Still, they are actually finding from different places in Orissa, in West Bengal, and in other places, Vrindavan and other places. They're actually uncovering a lot of this knowledge. When Mahaprabhu went to Trivandrum, he was in this temple of Padmanabha temple. They were reciting a prayer. Then he knew what that prayer was. And he was like, okay, you're reciting Brahma Samhita. Do you have this scripture? And then they gave whatever leftover part of Brahma Samhita, which was written down. So Mahaprabhu actually took that and brought to Jagannath Puri that knowledge. So things like that, there's so much was uncovered in last 500 years after Mahaprabhu came to reestablish this. And also all the acharyas, they have written down so much information. So the Nectar of Devotion, which is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Upadesha Amrita, which is a Nectar of Instruction, and there's so many other books that were written down by Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. They are all for us to realize Krishna and the mellows of the Lord, right? So I'll stop here and then we'll continue next week. Thank you very much. And we'll continue. Hare Krishna. And if you have any questions,